takes, and I don't even know if in a court, if you're right or wrong. But that's not really what's important to me. I know that you have Mel out there talking all about it and whatnot, but I mean, we're not qualified to say whether or not it's wrong. Somebody sitting out there in the audience certainly is not qualified to say whether or not it's legal. But a judge is.
I have hired an attorney.
Yeah, and I'm glad, and I think that we definitely need to make sure we have an outside attorney as well, because this is well outside of the scope of what our own office has the talent to do, especially when you consider that it was our attorney that was actually a fairly significant part of the process that got us to where we are.
And the liability comes on me when something's outside general law, and I continue to stroke the check, and I now know about it. This should never have been confrontational. This should have been something we could have talked about. But given there was no communication for 18 months, it made it difficult. But I will refer to my attorney, who is Matt Danheiser, who is a prior county attorney, who is probably a current capacity county attorney, mayor of Gulf Breeze, and his brother is a judge. And we've had conversations about this. I have explained my position and my reading of the statute. I'm just having difficulty that we cannot come to the table and realize that this investment type plan is outside general law.
Yep.
But that's the way I see it. You see it differently.
Yeah.
And
Madam Clerk, and I'll
move
tell you, one of
forward.
the great things about when things go to court is then everybody shuts up and lets everything take place in court. At least professional people do, and of course I'm sure that we will, because as I believe it was actually my peers on both sides of me said, we got a whole book of stuff we got to go over. So kick this over to the court, the third leg of the government. Let them make a decision and give us our guidance. In the meantime, we can take care of the will of the people. Thanks.
So how would that look? And I'm just curious, because maybe I'll second your motion. Maybe we need to just do it. I heard Lumen say maybe that's what we got to do. So what would your specific motion be for a writ of, I mean, what would you?
My advice to you is that you wait and do this as an agenda item. This is not on today's agenda.
And what would that look like?
Well, I can certainly bring an agenda item back to you at your very next board meeting. If what the board wants to do is retain counsel and give authority to that attorney to file the matter, or if she wants to file the matter first, whichever way, to represent you in a court proceeding.
But what I'm saying is you don't just go to the court and say, solve my problem. Would this be a writ of mandamus? What specifically would you file if we gave you the authorization today?
I don't really know that we want to have that conversation right here.
Well, I mean,
And since I wouldn't be the attorney representing you in this action, why don't you just wait?
Well, okay, that's another question.
I'm sure opposing counsel would love for you to have that
Yeah.
conversation here on the
But
dais.
let me ask you this. Well, why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be?
For a number of reasons. For starters, I'm not traditionally a litigator. Number two, I've already got one of your colleagues that's giving me a hard time about being involved in this. And number three, I would highly recommend that you get somebody who has courtroom experience that is commensurate with the issues.
Even if it was a simple request
And
for
I
a writ
also-
of mandamus for the ministerial function of paying the charge that would answer the question, for paying the contract that's important. I mean, to me, it's pretty simple, but I mean, I'm not a lawyer like you, I guess.
So, Madam Clerk, are you saying that the issue is the amount or the program itself?
I think we all agreed that the percentage itself was high. I tried to bring to you what the statutes say to get your input and fairness of this is what statutes. The second issue, actually the third, the first was the settlement, second was the interest. I continue to read to see, okay, what are we doing? What can we do? I just can't find where this ICMA defined contribution plan, money purchase plan, is allowable for elected official. I just can't. And if you can, share it. The two opinions that you provided, the first one said Chapter 112. That's an insurance statute. We're not talking about an annuity. We're not talking about premiums. Premiums for insurance. The second opinion really bases it on Chapter 121.182, which is a sentence taken totally out of context and used as if it's your whole argument. I just can't stand by that. So when we talk about the investment type itself, this money purchase plan, that's what I think. And I called around the state to find other elected officials, county commissioners, clerks in an ICMA plan. I'm struggling to find anyone else in this kind of plan.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
if you have someone else, let's talk to that.
Pam, I
council.
respect that, but did you not know about this plan 10 years ago when you first got elected?
The
Did you
plan was
just-
for senior class managers, and that's who was in the plan.
No, no,
I-
no. There have been two
I
other
wasn't here
commissioners
when
in.
Marie Young was in it. I was not, I didn't even know that Bender signed up in 2019.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, so
I
that's,
did not know about, it was an automatic thing. So I told you, I will accept that blame of not knowing. Much of that is automatic that goes through a payroll plan. Until we started looking at this, we focused on the settlement, then we focused on the interest rate. Now we're focusing on, is it a viable plan?
but what brought this to your attention?
When you all went to the Ethics Commission.
So, but let me ask
When
you,
we all went to the Ethics Commission.
There were several of you went, or two of you that went.
Well, what two?
I believe it was Commissioner Berry. Did anyone else go? I
You
had
just said when all of us
Commissioner
went.
Berry and the attorney.
And I mean, those are some of the statements that really.
It was Commissioner Berry and the
But-
and the county attorney.
I don't know who else traveled. There
Right.
was no county
And I
travel
respect that, Pam,
reimbursed.
but there's media listening today when you said when you all went, and then when two of y'all went.
I don't
Those-
know who
those
all went.
Those narratives
I don't
hurt.
know that. I do not know that. There is no county travel. I have been told that Commissioner
So you've been
Berry,
told that somebody went?
I have been told that Commissioner Berry went with Allison. If you want to,
Okay, then that's fine. But
I don't know what
That's
to tell
fine,
you.
but when you initially just said, when you all went, and then you said, well, when two of y'all went. And
I don't
so-
know who was in the car. I just don't know. There's no reimbursement for me to know.
And I understand, I respect that, Pam, but what the narrative will be when the commissioners went, I mean, and so then when two of y'all went, and now you'll say, well, I don't know who went, and so I'm saying those words, I'm
Do you know who went, sir? Let's clear the
record.
record. Do you know who went?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Let me tell you, this is what I do know. I didn't go. How about
Okay.
that?
Lumame
And-
did not go.
Yeah,
We know that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's a point.
Thank you.
But when you wrap it all up with everybody, I'm one of the board
My
members.
apologies.
Apology accepted.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, you mentioned the annuity. Do you not agree that the money purchase plan is governed under the laws of annuities,
It is governed
under the
under
regulations?
the IRS, but there are state statutes very specific in Florida, and they're odd to Florida, but it's very specific for elected officials because they do not want additional benefit to inure to an elected official. What stops me, and my salary's double than yours, what stops me from putting 50% of my salary into a contribution plan and make bank? That's what the spirit of the law is about when it comes to elected officials.
That wasn't what I asked you, Madam Clerk. I asked you a very
Restate your
simple
question.
question. Are you saying that the plan, the money purchase plan, is a defined contribution plan, which you've mentioned multiple times, but do you dispute that it's not under the regulations and the legal guise of annuities? Do you dispute
By
that?
the IRS?
By the IRS and Westlaw, by the IRC, the
Westlaw is
internal.
a service.
the Internal Revenue
IRS is a
Code. I mean,
codification.
I
I'll
know.
read it and give you that, I'll give you a written opinion. Yes,
Okay,
I'll
and
read
if you
it.
have, and if you have, the statutes that dispute that whether the ICMA plan is not going to be governed by the laws of annuities, I would love to see those, because if it's if it's in contradiction to Internal Revenue Code, that would be surprising.
But do you realize that the Florida statutes, and now that the form's been updated, doesn't even allow you to get into a plan like that?
Yes, ma'am, and that's not what I asked you. That doesn't, the removal of an option from a form doesn't create illegality for prior participation. I hope that's not what you're alleging, that the change of a form
No, I
makes
didn't.
something illegal. Yes, the only question I asked you was about whether you were still saying that it's not an annuity, because you did make, you made multiple statements that the county attorney had misrepresented what the plan was, that it's not an annuity, and that's not correct. I
In
would
the
hope there would be
statutes, when
maybe
they
an
ref-
apology for her as well, as my friend Commissioner May.
No, sir, I'm not issuing an apology.
Well, you
For
misrepresented
this.
what.
No, I
you
did not, sir.
You
In the
said,
statutes where you signed up on a form that referred to an annuity, an error in a state form, that annuity is very different than what you're referring to, which is why it was removed by the state of Florida.
All right. Again, that's not the question that I asked you, but, okay.
I would say, Allison, though, I mean, in the conversations we've had with FRS, they were well aware that you were asking on behalf of an elected official. I mean, they processed my form when I submitted it, saying that I was not enrolling in FRS and that I was going with the local annuity option. I mean, is that an accurate statement?
Yes, there were, in fact, 2 commissioners who petitioned halfway between their term, and they were denied the opportunity to opt out. It was very clear to all the personnel involved at FRS why they were asking to opt out. It was to be in a local program, and those conversations went as high as the Secretary of DMS.
And no one at that point raised a concern that this was,
Not at all. They said, wait till you get reelected.
okay,
That's our cue.
all right.
Why don't we get something in writing from DMS and FRS? Because
I've
that would
asked.
provide the clarity
I have
for
asked
both of
them,
us.
I have asked them multiple times. I have asked DMS to please give us guidance on our program, and I don't think they
I
want to be
have
involved.
not closed, violated, stopped a contract because I don't have that answer. I don't. Allison does not either. If we can get something in writing from DMS or FRS, we would both be fine. I just want to stay within general law. I am not trying to pick a fight with you.
Well, no, I mean, I do too, and that's why I was surprised to hear that I was doing something illegal. You know, I mean, so,
With all due respect, please watch the video. It looked like as good as it gets, or, you know, did you issue a code red? Basically forcing me, is it illegal? Okay, fine, it's illegal. When it's outside general law, you do run the risk that it's illegal, but not with criminal connotations. It's not a word I typically use. It's outside general law
Well, I understand.
until we can prove it's inside. I'm willing to work together on that.
thank you. All right, growth management?
Okay. First public hearing is to review and adopt an ordinance to review and adopt amending the RMU to increase the retail sales gross floor area. Review and adopt.
Mr. Chairman, do we have any speakers?
No, sir, we don't, but I'm refreshing just to confirm, and we do not.
All right, thank you. Move the 9:15.
Second.
Nine 15 passes 5-0.
The next item, 916, is to review and adopt amending the small-scale map amendment from 10 acres to 50 acres.
Any speakers?
No speakers.
Move this at 9:16.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. 917,
917 is a renewal permit for a permit Potatoe Landfill North Ball Pit with all of the attachments therein.
Mr. Chairman,
No
any
s-
speakers?
no speakers.
Thank you, and I appreciate y'all bringing this back today with the backup to it, or the memo as part of it. Move the 917.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Car 1, we are holding item 5 for speaker regarding the noise abatement ordinance. Are there any others that the board would like to have held?
Number 5 has been held?
Number 5 is being held,
Okay.
yes, sir.
No, that's it.
Move the balance.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote. Car 1 balance passes 5-0. Chad Ernoe?
Good morning. Thanks for your time today. This is in regards to a noise waiver that was put in. I emailed Mr. Burgash last week about it. Just want to come in person to say, you know, I don't want to set a precedent in a neighborhood. Basically, if, you know, it outlines a live band for 12 hours on a Sunday afternoon till almost midnight. This person's been warned in the past about noise by the sheriff's office and Sergeant Lee directly. And it's just kind of like he's trying to circumvent it. And I just wanted to put it out there that I protested for myself, my neighbors. This is a residential neighborhood, not a commercial area. If somebody wants to have a party with a band, I'm all for it. Sometimes look at renting an event center for that. Not houses that are 40 to 80 feet at most. And this person does have a concert level amplified system. I dealt with it for 4 weeks before I contacted the sheriff's office. First time I was told nothing you can do as long as it's before 10 p.m. Then Sergeant Lee corrected that for me and went and spoke to him and said, no, it's any time. And just said, if I ever have future issues, you know, call her office or after hours, call dispatch. My biggest thing is just don't approve this permit. It's, you know, they have other options.
Let me ask a question, since this is in my district. I did get the email, and I've done some independent research. It's my understanding there's a couple of neighbors that are kind of at each other's throats, and is the petitioner here, Mr. House? Is that his name, House?
Yes, I believe so.
Mr. House here in the crowd? No, I don't see him. You know, look, these things create problems. We have the same issue at the Equestrian Center. We have a licensed, permitted activity Sunday afternoons. It's a Hispanic rodeo event. And, you know, they try to be as respectful as they can. They play till about 9 o'clock, but I still have neighbors complaining about it. So I'm attenuated to your concerns. There was no chance I was going to support it going till midnight. I cannot imagine, you know, the Viking helmet with the horns and the heavy metal till midnight on Sunday. I just can't, I don't know what kind of music it is, but I get it. If I'm a neighbor, I wouldn't want it either. But I do think it's reasonable for him to request, you know, a couple of hours in the afternoon. It's his 50th birthday. So
I understand the edit, and that was the second thing is.
Yeah. So what, I mean,
Can that be
to me,
edited?
it'd be reasonable to say, look, I don't know, noon till 8, 2 till 8, but to just say no, I mean, you know, I think you have to give them a little credit for at least coming in. I mean, we have areas across the county that put in these requests for late night fireworks and things of this nature.
Yes.
And I'm sure that residents don't like it, but, you know, I'm trying to strike a balance that's fair to the neighbors and to this petitioner as well. So just for your awareness, there was no chance I was ever going to recommend approval of 12 hours of heavy metal.
Okay.
You know, it's just
And
not going to happen.
That's why I'm here today, because.
So what would
Let's
be
still do it
reasonable
in
to you?
person.
You're here, he's not. What's
You
reasonable?
know, reasonable to me, just because of the past with the sheriff's office and just general lack of the neighborhood, to me is zero, not at all.
Nah,
However,
but-
I'm a reasonable person, and, you know, if it was, say, 4 to 8, you know, it's a Sunday afternoon. Most people work.
3 to 9. So 3 to 9 is what I'll do. And I say that because you put us in somewhat of an untenable position, and the sheriff's office as well. We are up here and we say, no.
Yeah.
He's going to do it anyway. And then the sheriffs go out, and our noise ordinance
to
is more
enforce.
difficult to enforce than our tree ordinance, believe
Yes,
me.
yes.
So it would be a problem. So my motion will be from 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock's reasonable. It's his 50th birthday. Again, he tried to do it right. We approve these all day, every day for people to do fireworks displays. You know,
Do you do them for a residential area, for things like that? That's the
absolutely.
only-
Subdivisions,
Okay.
residential,
Okay, I was
condos.
just told it was rare to put in for that, so that's.
No,
you know,
we've
why the
done these
permit
before,
office.
block parties, they're all,
Okay.
yeah.
And I
those are-
understand those things.
So again, I'm trying to split the baby here, so no one's going to be happy with me, but I think 3 till 9 will be the motion.
Second for discussion.
Okay, that's my motion, second.
Sure.
Yeah, it's important that we make sure that we capture and really talk about this permitting process in the light that it is. This is not getting around it. This is doing what he should have done the first time. This is, in fact, if every time that somebody was planning on having a party, they came down, got the proper permitting, so the sheriff's office knew what to expect, so the citizens knew what to expect, then quite frankly, you don't have nearly as much conflict in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is the right business practice, and we actually do this quite often, particularly on the barrier islands where there's a little bit more of a party atmosphere. You know, it's not at all uncommon to do these in residential areas. what I've oftentimes found is that if people know what to expect, then they have a much higher tolerance for the things that they don't, that they don't prefer.
Yeah, my
so-
point was that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, this is the right way to do it. And Jeff, I think if particularly, if it was a Saturday night, then midnight make more sense. A lot of people have to be at work early in the morning. So, that, I think that you probably split the baby in what I think is a reasonable way, allows the individual to enjoy his quality of life, and allows his neighbors to do so as well, while at the same time making sure that the authorities know exactly what to expect, because we're all on the same sheet of music. So very happy to second that motion.
That, Mr. Unawary, how do you pronounce your name again?
Ernaway.
Ernaway, thank you for coming in. Thank you for the email. I'm just trying to be reasonable here, and I think it's reasonable to say 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock. I think 12 noon to midnight might have been too much on Sunday. So I'm glad that you came down. Had you not come down and no one emailed me, I still probably would have limited it till 10. But 3 to 9, I think, is reasonable.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jeff, I think we, of course, have some discretion in how we utilize this. I mean, we could do it without an amplifier system probably, or something like that, but not looking to do all that. But, I mean, at 12 hours, when the fireworks one that we just approved was from 8 PM to 8:30 PM, again. So I think that's typically what we see as a smaller window, so also support that. But any other comment? Please vote.
And the clerk you got the change, right? 3 to 9. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Motion passes 5-0. All right, card 2, we are currently holding item 3 and 9 for speakers. Are there any other items to be held? 30?
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question about Tanya Rodriguez, number 6, the Mass Transit Development Plan. Was that what you guys presented at the Committee of the Whole? Or is that something different?
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, sir, that is the Transit Development Plan that was presented at the Committee of the Whole.
Okay, all right. And with, I mean, I know there are some modifications on routes and buses, and so did we edit it or make those recommendations? I know Commissioner Underhill had a couple, Commissioner Berry, and I, did we make those amendments?
They did have some comments, and we did tell the consultant to make sure they added those comments and recommendations included in the final document.
So they will be in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so currently we are just holding item 2-3, 9, and 30. Is that right?
I move to balance.
All right, please vote. Motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Bergosh off the dais. Item 3, Josh Womack.
Yes, sir.
Morning, Mr. Womack. You had signed up to talk about this issue, the recommendation concerning the 2021 Community Housing Development Organizational Homeownership Infill Project.
Yes, sir, I did.
Yes, sir.
Our county, because it's our county, keep getting hit when we're not paying attention. And if we're going to get into something, Habitat was based on faith. And when you swap from faith to business, there is a disconnect there because everybody has presented themselves on faith. This Chodo, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but for the people that has been disenfranchised, is it a good thing or not? And if you don't have nobody on your staff that knows anything about people that are less fortunate that's going into an area, then how can you tell? You're just going to put back in there your working class people, and them same people that we talking about that bees on these corners or just in an apartment that can go head on with the proper guidance, be a homeowner, are those people being looked at? And if you're talking about for profit, you're not looking at them because you got to put help in them. So I'm just want to make sure our county is still looking out for those people that are disenfranchised. And if this project is going in District 3, we got a good chance to make a positive impact on our community. And I just want to make sure we do that.
Yes, sir. Likewise.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Josh. Good seeing you, and I know you're in the north end. Claire, Meredith. Did we solidify how we going to identify the buyers? And do we have that as part of this agreement?
So that is in the agreement, that they do need to present a plan for, a fair and equitable way. Of course, the home buyers are going to have to meet income requirements under the HUD requirements, and so these are 80% area median income clients, and they will have to have credit to be able to qualify for a first mortgage to buy these homes.
So, Claire, we did, and I don't need them to identify buyers. I need them to certify them and go through the first-time home buyers. But this project's been on my book for a long time, and we've had multiple meetings where people have showed up and signed up for first-time home buyers. There's a list that's paramount that has to be included in this agreement because those were promises made. So I'm not interested in Habitat creating a list. The list has already been created.
I'm sorry, and I misunderstood your question. So in the RFP, we did specify that we had a list of folks that were interested in this project, that we would be providing that to them.
So I would want that language a little stronger, that we will provide those names.
Yeah.
And have we had any preliminary on the design guidelines of what's going to be designed? Because, I mean, we're very, I'm happy with what, Habitat provides for affordable homes, but, I mean, we're going to be dumping, these homes are going to be at $180,000 a piece. We're going to dump $120,000 into them. I expect to see, some brick, some stucco, and not just the traditional vinyl siding of homes that we found at Habitat that has plagued District 3. $28 million of them doing neighborhood stabilization went in District 3. So, I mean, do we have that defined in the agreement?
So the design criteria, that all of these are located in the city CRA overlay,
Right.
which has a much more stringent design. So all of that has been incorporated. So they have specifications regarding roof pitch, setbacks, porches, elevation above grade. So there's a lot of requirements in there. We did not specify, you cannot use vinyl. So if we want to work with them on that, I know that they'll be willing to work on that. Of course, using hardy board or all brick, of course, that's going to increase costs. So just need to be mindful of that.
Right. And that's just not in the backup. So, I mean, Wes, for me, I'm certainly going to support this, but I'm not going to support it moving forward today without some, and I think I know the architect that's coming forward on this project, but I would like to see a schematic on a sheet of paper of how we're, the design. This is in the heart. I was just there Saturday night, and this is on the hill of Addis Court. I've been a part of this project, but I would like for that to be more defined in the contract, Wes.
For my clarification, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, I know they haven't moved forward with design, it's contingent on that. So if we're asking them to get schematic, are we willing to allow for some funding to, support that, for them to get the design?
Absolutely.
We can certainly bring the design and the specifications as we move forward through the process, Commissioner.
They had to put something in it, and I'm not asking for drawings. I'm just looking for, if someone brings a proposal for a design, they have some type of schematic in which they put there. So I'm not, quite frankly, I'm not asking for anything that would cost.
Okay.
No, I'm not asking for architectural or anything like that. I just like to, it can be a written description.
Okay.
All right, yeah, but I know that, whatever we're going to put in District 3, it's going to be something that citizens are going to be proud of 30 years from now.
And
So,
that's
I mean,
what
so,
staff.
well, I can't solve it. Can I just move, bring this back to the next meeting? That's all for me and Wes to talk. All right, I'm gonna move to drop it to the next meeting.
Any further discussion? Please vote to drop this item, bring it back to the next meeting. Motion passes 5-0. Item 9, recommendation concerning State Law Enforcement Trust Fund. Melissa Pino.
Thank you, Chairman Bender. Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblets. Left town at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, got back 2 a.m. last night, and in the meantime, the entire county blows up in support of not cutting this tree down. Dr. Edler's transcript gets released so everybody can see she perjured herself under oath. Jacqueline Rogers finally gets sued for harassing people.
That's not the item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
It's not, but I'm getting to the last thing that actually happens, which I just think I need to leave town more often, and it's nice to not have to be here when stuff blows up. Because the last thing is, of course, David Morgan doing this statue for himself. And then we all have to act surprised that we don't know this is who the man is. I mean, it's who he was all along, whoever his friends were at the time or not, and those friends change. Poor Eric Haynes, after all that, he didn't even get a little mini-me statue of himself in bronze. But it brings it back to the LEP funds, and I get accused of politicking. I would be accused of a lot of things. I don't politic. I look at issues, I decide for myself what I think is right and wrong, and I could be wrong. And people can disagree with that. I looked at the LEP funds a long time ago, back in the day when Jimmy Staley was raising hell about him, and I said, she's right. Now, here's what I don't get. All right, this man can spend $75,000 2 times over out of his general fund. Okay, so we're to understand this is legal. And Ms. Childers says, I don't hold the checkbook for the sheriff's department. She's made that very clear. She has no discretion over the line items, and this is supposed to have been the general funds money, no matter what Morgan and Haynes and everybody else were doing in the background, moving money around. We guess that the check finally got written out of the general fund, and that's not something that Ms. Childers has any play over. The LEP funds are the checkbook of the county commission, and she has made it clear over and over that those LEP funds are not something that she can have anything over the back end paperwork on. I don't get this, and I'm never going to stop hammering on it. Maybe people are sick of hearing it. I don't care. It's not right. And so Ms. Childers said, the liability is on me when something is outside the general law. You just said that, Ms. Childers. Chip Simmons and his lawyer gave me the AG's opinion on how the way this county has been handling LEP funds. I misspoke at that meeting. I said statute. I apologize. It was an AG's opinion. It wasn't statute. It's outside the general law. Another thing that you said is you just can't find anything in writing that how that's been handled is okay. Ms. Childers, I can't find anything in writing anywhere where how we were handling the LEP funds are okay. It's your checkbook. You don't have the back-end paperwork on it. It's never been balanced. It's never been accounted for. Why? That's been your entire time in office. I started this back when I was still a wholehearted supporter of yours, and we had a very good rapport. Like for those days to come back. I don't understand what's going on. You know, I started asking about this in a way that had nothing to do with the politics of what are happening right now. I'm just continuing what I've been asking for 3 years now. Why aren't we handling the LEP funds properly? And we may be now with Sheriff Simmons, I think we are. But why isn't anybody looking into how Morgan and Haynes were handling the LEP funds back then? I mean, it's an open, honest question that the entire community has asked for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move item 9, A and B in the affirmative. That was the last speaker, right?
Right, yep.
Okay.
Is there a second for the IT fund?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. I did hear, I guess, on the radio this morning that the sheriff is writing a check. Madam Attorney, do we think that check should be to us, seeing that he returned $8,000 and now that was general fund money that should have been returned in the last fiscal year?
Great question. It would certainly, without knowing more details about how it all worked, but it would certainly seem that would be appropriate. Normally, they would be obligated to return unused funds at the end of the year, so it would seem that should.
Hey, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think that, the purchase of the $75,000 expenditure for statues that commemorate, our first responders was not an inappropriate expense. The inappropriate part that I think is outside of what I think that our former sheriff would even say is his own moral and ethical bounds was making the statue look like him. There were other options that he could have taken. So I would think that, and I don't know if, I have not spoken with our sheriff now about this issue, but before we go reallocating, we've all gone to that ceremony for the fallen first responders. I would personally want to hold off on that thought process of where that money goes to until Chip tells us what how do we correct this, right? Because the other two structures of that statue triptych were actually pretty, actually very appropriate, I think. Yeah. And good expenditures. This one, if it were not a likeness of an elected official, would probably be just fine. So I would just think that, obviously we're not going to be making an action on it today, but I'd very much like to hear what Chip thinks is the right thing to do with that money before we start saying what we think ought to be done with it.
Right, was that a LOST or just a general fund? I mean,
It was a general fund from the sheriff's department.
But you don't typically pay for capital out of the general fund, do you?
You can.
There'd be a lot of questions I think we have about the sheriff's spending, so. I'm not saying that against Sheriff Simmons or Sheriff Morgan necessarily. I'm just saying that I know this board has often asked about the spending of the sheriff's department, and as we can see, there is not the same oversight that our board has.
But we do have some liability, right? I mean, we issue the money. We take it from the taxpayers and we give it. So do we have any liability? So once we give the money, we have no more liability, no more stewardship, once we give the money to the constitutional officers.
No, he is audited by an outside audit firm, not by our clerk, not by you. So I think he does things on his own risk.
So why do we even collect it?
Because that's our job, that's our constitutional, we're the collectors.
Statutorily, the unspent funds are supposed to be returned to you, to your general fund at the end of the fiscal year, each fiscal year.
So Robert has a good point then, that money should be returned back to us.
I agree. Without knowing more, I would certainly agree.
Yeah, I think that's and I don't think you guys are unaware. I mean, I support law enforcement, and I think that in order to make sure that we have the bodies needed to provide that service, that I can see most of what he's asked for this year. But on that same thing, there's the responsibility of the sheriff to really only ask what he needs, because anything more is taking away projects and things like that. So I think there is a high responsibility with having the largest budget from our county. With that being said, though, I also support it, right? I mean,
I support law enforcement, but
right.
You can't have waste either. You can't tell custodial staff they don't have supplies, and you find money to buy statues. I mean, so yeah.
Right. And, I'm sure we can all find things in each other's budgets that we don't agree with and things like that. But, for me to support you, I also need to know that it's responsible. And I think that we're headed in that right direction, so. I think we already voted
No,
on
we're
this
good.
one. Yeah.
And we're removing a lot of statues in Northwest Florida, so I mean, it's pretty easy to remove statues now.
So, all right, item 30, Commissioner Underhill, I think you asked to have this held, is that right?
Thank you. Mr. Administrator, what is the purpose for making this addition, this change order for Blue Arbor?
It's regarding District 5's intern
Oh, okay.
payments.
And?
As it's titled.
So it's a misunderstanding. I just want to make sure that I'm not conflating this with the other discussion, the Blue Arbor discussion that we've been having
No, sir.
regarding. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephen, for your information.
Move the item.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Card 2-3. We are holding discussions. We just have a speaker on item 3. So, item 1, recommendation concerning written request from Ronald Magnum regarding a hurricane housing recovery program loan at 2510 North Tarragona Street. We do not have any speakers.
What number was that?
It's car 3-1. The requester's not even here to speak to it?
He's not,
No.
is he not here, Claire? Yeah, Mr. Mangum's here. Yeah, he's here. I see him.
Would you like to come speak on the? Morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, I'm fine.
If you don't mind just stating your name for the record, and then on your way out, just sign up at the desk so we have it for the record.
Okay. Name is Ronald Mangum.
And then you're asking for recommendations. Sorry.
You want to explain it, Mary, to what he's asking for? Or Claire? one
Yes,
of
go
you.
ahead.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
Brian. What, several years ago, under our HHRP program, Mr. Mangum participated in rental development where we provided funding to help develop 4 rental units to be rented to Section 8 renters. And Mr. Mangum is wanting to sell 2 of the units and before our affordability period expires. And what he had approached and asked is for just a waiver of anything that needed to be paid back. Unfortunately, because he has a list pendants, we had provided a payoff of $40,000, which he does not have the funds to pay at this time. And so we have approached Florida Housing Finance Corporation. They were agreeable for payment of $5,336.80, and that would have been what he would have owed to us if he had been in compliance. He only has 1 year left on his affordability agreement, so that's what he is asking. And then what we're also wanting to just make clear is that the 2 remaining units, that if he wants to sell, if he will work with us or some not-for-profit to give them first right of refusal to purchase that, so we don't lose those units.
So, Mayor, the other 2 units that we're holding,
So there was multiple things. So one, he does have a sales contract on the 2 units. So that is what number 1. So to let him pay that back so he can close on the sale of that property. And then A2 would just be to permit. He does have the other 2 listed for sale. So for us to maybe work with a not-for-profit, and that is under Florida statute that we should allow a not-for-profit first right of refusal before he sells that before the affordability
and
period.
market rate. So can we buy it at market rate, or does it have to be a not-for-profit?
We could.
So then what's the value of those 2 lots?
I have not gotten into the valuation. Can you tell me what you listed? You've got them listed at 175 apiece.
Okay.
And then just
We can't make affordable work at
And then just
175
for the,
yet, yeah.
and then just for the record, he does still owe, 40,000 on the other, so that's the 175, but he does still owe the county 20,000 per unit on the remaining 2 units.
So
that-
he owes the county $40,000
Correct.
because of the money that was advanced initially.
Correct.
And you would get that at the sale.
Correct. Plus the 5,000 that we're talking for the other 2 units.
But you would do the 5,000 now, but you wouldn't do the 40,000 to the other
Correct.
2-lot sale, or you would get that out of this?
The 40,000 is owed regardless because he has defaulted, so that will come back whenever it's sold at whatever point in the future.
Commissioner May,
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert, I
Yeah.
apologize.
Sir, are you understand what's being offered and acceptable to that?
Yes, yes, we've discussed it, I discussed it with Meredith, and I'm agreeable with it, yes.
Okay.
So you're good, Ron, with the 45, 33680? Is that what it ends up being?
So it's the 5 right now, so for the one that he does currently have under contract.
So then the 40
And then
is
he
when he
under-
sells the other 2 lots, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And would those be split 20/20, or one of them have to come out of the first proceeds, or how would that work?
So the 5,336 and change, that will come back when he closes on this existing one. So the other properties are 20,000, we put 20,000 into each one.
Okay.
So it would be whenever,
Those
if he
sell,
sold
okay.
them together, then we get the full amount, or if he sold them separately, it would
What's the
be-
timetable for that, Meredith?
So if he had been in compliance, it would have been forgiven next year, so we would have lost those units, he doesn't have the affordability clause, so if, at this point.
Does he
if-
plan on-
If he sells them,
But to be in
we'll get
compliance,
it-
all he'd
we'll
have to
get
do
it
is
back-
build them, right?
We'll get it back whenever he sells
To
them.
be in compliance, Mr. Mangum, all you would have to do is build 2 affordable homes, right?
His compliance, he built them affordable, and he's supposed to stay current on his first mortgage, stay current on his taxes, and rent to Section 8 tenants.
Oh, these are properties, these are not vacant lots.
No, no.
These are occupied units. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Mangum?
Well, I guess we're just trying to satisfy the first loan that they actually called, it was an ARM loan. And they had no idea that this was a part of that loan that we requested from them to actually do this when we got the RFP for the county. So they just wanted to get paid, the other lender.
Right.
So they called it, and that's kind of where we are.
All right, not a problem.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So do we need to, since we're just doing the 5, do we need to take 2 and 3 right now, Meredith, or should we just take A1? All right. Is there a reason why we would have to take the other items and just go ahead and
Well, I
accept
think
the
it's
one?
just to clarify what's,
yeah.
What's happened with his default, and then to, we've had the discussion, and actually, I think there is a not-for-profit that has already approached him that has some interest in purchasing that, so, but that's outside of this.
Well, I mean, and this is what I didn't realize that those are properties. I'd love to, if he's selling them for $175 a piece and they're in good condition, and, I mean, if that's something that we could take on as a county, I mean, that's instant affordable housing that we could put on the home ownership right now. So I would hope that we would have first rights of refusal since it was our money that was lent on it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to memorialize that, because I was not aware of the other 2 units being sold until we were contacted by the title company for a payoff.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I mean, for me, I mean, it would be important for us to maintain a position that, you know, we get first. I mean, we're trying to do affordable housing, as we just did with the Habitat. Those are two houses that are existing. And if, I don't know the value, I mean, you or Claire would have to tell me, but I mean, if we could purchase it, I mean, we already got 40,000 in it, and we could make that home ownership for somebody instantly. To me, that would be a win for Mr. Mangum. It'd be a win for the community. I mean, he'd get his money out, and we'd get some affordable housing on the market tomorrow. I mean, because even the nonprofits are selling outside the range of which a $12 an hour person can buy. I mean, you know, I mean, our employees, so, I mean, I would move the item, but I mean, I would have to move it with some provisions that we get first consideration to put that into our affordable housing stock.
And I think if you'll approve A2, that should do that, Commissioner May.
Okay. With that. All right. That's what I'll do, with the friendly amendment that we will have the first right to put this into our affordable housing stock.
And are you leaving 3 in there as well? I mean, 3 is just acknowledging that it's still owed.
And it's no longer, it's a English provision. Okay. I mean, that's.
All right, so it's,
Yep, 3's fine. Everything else, I
Okay.
mean, Mary, that's what you wanted me to leave on, correct?
Yes.
Leave all of it on, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, once he pays off his first mortgage, that means that we'll be in a first mortgage position for the other 2 properties. So that is why I want to acknowledge that 40,000 is still owed.
Okay. Yep.
all right, so it's A, B, and C, with A2 being listed as the county being the right of first refusal as the only change.
Yep. You go with that, Mr. Mayor?
Okay,
All right. All right.
Second.
thank you, sir. Please vote.
And thanks, Ron, for all the affordable housing that you've been doing. I know you've been doing it down through the years, and
Yes, sir.
so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Underhill off the dais.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can we go back to item 30 on CAR 2?
Okay.
In the table, the cost center is listed as 110101, and that should be 110115. Can we go back and make that change?
Yeah, we need to rescind the vote or just change it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to make a notation in the minutes as a for information to update the cost center, and I see the object code as well on the script,
All right, thank you.
if that's easiest.
Yeah, that's perfect, thank you.
Okay. Do you need any further action? We're good? We just need to change that to, as stated by the administrator. Is that good, Wes?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Item CAR 3-2, recommendation concerning the acquisition of a restrictive easement in support of density reduction and encroachment protection at Naval Air Station, Pensacola.
Any speakers on this?
No, sir.
Move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
All right. Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Mel, you coming? All right. Item 3 is recommendation concerning the Escambia County American Rescue Act plan reporting. There she goes. Mel, you're the speaker.
Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblis. I apologize, I didn't know we were coming up on this one. So once again, not politicking for Commissioner Burgash or anyone else, just speaking my own thoughts and the thoughts of other people that I've spoken with. And I get that there's a contrary opinion out there. We're on redistricting, right? No, I wasn't signed up for anything else but redistricting.
You have an American Rescue Act plan.
Oh, American Rescue Act, okay. Sorry, let those minutes roll, because this is going to be really simple. Because I don't know if this is about what you guys are going to be spending this on or when you're going to be spending it. I couldn't tell from the backup. I don't know if those decisions have been made by the board or if there's been community input allowed on what those funds can be used for. And I know that there's, federal restrictions, obviously. I don't want to miss an opportunity, especially coming off of some of the discussion this morning about CARES, to advocate for staff. Staff needs more help during COVID than, I'm sorry, what they've gotten from this board, from the policymakers, and from administration. And it's a rough time politically. There isn't anybody who doesn't get that. There are a lot of us that are sitting back watching this just in absolute disbelief that we're supposed to believe nobody's dying of COVID. Only the fat people are going on ventilators. Now we've got some disinformation story about which kids are landing in the hospital for COVID. We got higher ups in the medical community over in Alabama literally saying that this is going to be a COVID apocalypse next week. Her words, not mine. And staff hasn't had, it's not just like logistical help. It's not just material help. Like Commissioner May said, we've had so many staff members die of COVID. My God, if those people had died in a car accident, or if we had all those cases of cancer, where are the memorials? Like, where's the empathy? Because this thing has become such a dirty political secret. And we know what's going on. They're not reporting the deaths. Santis isn't. DOH isn't. God knows how the hospital administrators are coding things. But in the end, gentlemen, there will be one number, and that's the number of how many people died. And it is going to be through the roof. Our healthcare costs are also going to go through the roof. And you can have staff vaccinate. New staff can. They're getting ready to do that at the city. Please do things to support your staff that are concerned about this and aren't up in the politics of the no masks and everything else, and just have to come here and try to work and not get COVID in an atmosphere that is really stacked against them. So I hope that wasn't too out of line. Like I said, I couldn't tell if this is deciding how it gets spent or when it gets spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Board?
Mr. Chairman, we'll move it, but Wes, I agree with Mel. I mean, one of the reasons you got recovery money, rescue money, is because the government simply understands that you can't operate and do business as usual during a pandemic. So,
Sure.
I mean, I think there are things that should be done in terms of the safety and the protection of our citizens and utilizing this money to make sure that we're doing everything that we can possibly do. So whatever plan it is with Eric, Wes, you'll find my support. But I'm not saying that we're going to eliminate it, but we certainly can do whatever we can to help protect our employees. And we know it's uncomfortable to tell people things, but sometimes it's in the best interest of all of us that people do.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Looking for a motion then on A and B?
Move CAR 3-3, A and B, instructing the staff to execute the required reports.
Second. Second. Please, any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. CAR 3-4, recommendation concerning the chief budget officer. Wes? I guess I'm going to start with it. I think Commissioner Underhill, this is the one that you're asking about.
Sure. So, as you are aware, we currently are without a budget officer. We have public hearings in September. There are quite a few steps that remain to be taken to push us through September and push us through those budget hearings. I have been looking for strategies and trying to put a plan together to push us through September. Part of that is to contract through Blue Arbor with Mr. Stephen Hall, who's agreed to help us out. He would not sit in the budget office. He would work weekends and do some night work. His job would not to be to reconstruct the budget. His job would simply be to help us move forward, complete the steps that are needed to be completed, and push us through September, through maybe a little bit of October. And then, and collaterally, we are going out for a search for the most highly qualified, most highly certified finance director. And we will do that professional search, and we will follow that professional search process.
Commissioner Underhill?
Thank you very much. Wes, is Stefan currently on our payroll?
He
at
is
all?
not. There's still some due diligence that I'm doing prior to pulling the trigger on that. I have some more due diligence that I'm working through, but he
And
is
is he
not.
conducting duties with us already?
I believe he is getting familiar with some things, yes.
It's come to my attention that he's made some phone calls to one of our vendors speaking on behalf of Escambia County. Are you aware of that, or did you know that?
To one of our vendors?
Yeah, to OpenGov?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. I would like for you to please research whether or not he did in fact make a phone call working on behalf of Escambia County when he was actually on the clock over at the city.
Sure.
And I would like to know if there is any veracity to any kind of a statement that the Board of County Commissioners was not of like mind about staying on OpenGov.
I've not heard any of that, Commissioner.
If you would please run that to ground.
Sure.
And I'd like to get your opinion about those things once you've had the opportunity to run it to ground. Have you had an opportunity to review, and do we have written discussion or written statements discussing the legality of an individual working for two entities at one time?
That is part of my due diligence that I'm going through right now.
Okay, because I'd like to very much, I'd like to have something from, if it's the mayor, that's fine. If there's somebody, whoever else in a position of authority at the city, that documents what our relationship is going to be. And I would want to see something from the city out of respect for the city that they say, yeah, that's okay with us, and that's fully in accordance with all of our policies and procedures. I would also like to see something from our attorney stating that this is, that there's no, it doesn't create any kind of a conflict of interest. And I'd like to have that actually, a written statement.
They are looking at that now.
Okay. So it'd be very hard for me, and when I say very hard for me, it's maybe impossible to support a course of action that doesn't have that due diligence already
absolutely.
taken
I
care
agree
of.
100%.
So I wouldn't be able to vote in favor of that until we have those answers done. I am also very interested in having a conversation with you about exactly what duties would need to be done in nights and weekends that our current staff can't already do. And I bring this up because we've had a fairly long track record in this county sometimes of bringing back some of the, retreading some old previous employees. And I just want to make sure that we're not doing that out of, instead of giving our current employees the opportunity to continue to carry the ball into the end zone. We've got a great team. We have nearly 100, I'd say we're practically completed with regard to implementation of OpenGov, and that wasn't, while Amber certainly did a lot of work, I think it would be disrespectful to all the other employees that carried the ball on making that happen. So the hard work is actually done. I don't think it's outside the range of our current staff to do it, to get us over that finish line. We're all pretty experienced as commissioners. We know what we're doing in terms of a budget and whatnot. And also, I'd like to have a conversation with you. Have you reached out to the clerk's office for them to, if there's any assistance that they could provide to fill the gap for our current teammates without having to bring a previous employee back?
I understand. I'd be happy to have those conversations.
Okay, so you have not had a conversation?
I've not had a conversation with the clerk's office.
So yeah, and again, as I said on the phone, hey, you're the administrator and not me, but I certainly would like to hear if, in fact, is it something that we could do simply by partnering with the clerk? And quite frankly, the clerk's office is a partner in making the budget, and they have certainly helped us out quite a bit during Amber's tenure. They are the subject matter experts, not somebody coming back over from the city. And like I said, I would personally trust our current staff to be able to get us over the finish line.
I understand.
Commissioner Berry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to tell the administrator I support the course of action. I wouldn't predict this as something that comes back to us for any type of vote, but support what you're doing. We do have work to get done, and I I don't know. I mean, I don't see this really being an action of the board at all.
Mr. Mack.
I look forward as we go out for a professional search, but I mean, you know, I would hope in the future there is a policy that we would at least ratify directors, but at this time, there's no policy, Wes. It's your decision. You're in charge. I mean, you'll fail or you'll succeed. As far as I'm concerned, you make those decisions, who you feel most comfortable with. I mean, to be the most effective administrator if you want. You can hire Mel Pino, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, just make sure that you get the person that you can best work with.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Section 2.84 of our county ordinances does in fact require that department heads need to be ratified by the board. So
Just ratify it.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't
So-
make a decision. All we do, we ratify them. I mean, we can't, yeah, that's what we do. I mean, it's like LUT funds. We ratify them. I mean, we can't say, no, you
That's not
can't
the
hire
same.
'em.
That is definitely not the same
Well,
as
you'd have to give me the
ratifying.
precedent, you'd have to give me the precedent where the board has never ratified any administrator who's on any director.
Well, I think that's an indicator that administrators recognize what the board would expect, and so they bring us department heads that we would in fact ratify, but
Well,
ratification.
we've hired administrators, directors, commissioner without them being ratified.
No, our rules say that we should ratify it, and I tell you what, anytime that anybody brings something up here for me to ratify, that is never going to be a rubber stamp on my watch, so. But Wes, I think you know that.
Is
Thanks.
he being hired as the budget director, or is he just being hired as a temporary employee that's familiar with our processes and helping us get through the budget cycle?
He is not being hired in any way, shape, form, or fashion as the budget director.
I mean, yeah, that's unfair to put Wes on it. Come on, when the last administrator got help with the budget, they didn't bring the person in here for us to ratify. She just seeked out and got help. So, I mean, that's.
Yeah, no, again, we're conflating the two different things. Obviously, I think it's not a very wise course of action, but it's also not my course of action to take. I want to also make sure that we exercise our oversight responsibilities to make sure that what we're doing is in fact in accordance with all of the ordinances and laws that apply, and which Wes has already agreed to. The statement that I made about the ratification is you actually specifically said, Lumen, that we don't ratify those, and in fact, we must. If we want to change our ordinance.
well,
Well, Lumen,
we may
hang on a second.
ratify,
If
but
we
we don't
don't, if we
have.
want to change the ordinance, that we don't have to ratify them, I think we probably have the authority to do that. I was just, I know there's, there's a bazillion ordinances. You can't know all of them at all times. but
We can do wordsmith and trade spit all day, but I mean.
Ratify has a very distinctive duty, though. It is a
No one's
duty,
never
so.
opposed any director that a administrator has brought forward.
No. I certainly would if I felt like it was a detriment to the Escambia County. Thanks.
Commissioner Bergosh?
Yeah, and Wes, what a great idea, and I applaud you. Stephen Hall, during my tenure on the board, short as it is, 5 years in, was always a consummate professional. When you told me that, I brought a smile to my face. I trust him. He's very competent, very well versed in the budget, so I think you're making a very excellent decision given the circumstances. Had you just done it, I think that would have been fine too, but I'm glad that you brought it out, and fully support your decision and look forward to seeing him again. He's a great guy. Wish we had him full-time, but congratulations to him and his great career he's got going at the city, but I just want Stephen Hall to know that he'll be welcomed coming back to assist us to get through this budget cycle. Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right. County Attorney's report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 6 action items, and there's 1 discussion item, and I do see that the Honorable Mr. Stafford is in the audience to address the discussion item if you would like to have that conversation.
Yeah, let's bring it forward at consideration for his time. What do you think, Mr. Chairman?
So really, Board, this is, I know we did get the preliminary numbers, and welcome, Mr. Stafford. I would also say that the school board requested a meeting, and actually, we do have a speaker on it, so David, I'll take the speaker first, please.
Yes, sir.
Mel Pino?
Thanks, Chairman Bender. Sorry about that other mix-up, so I'll start. I knew when you were looking so confused that I was way off base, but, people will say, oh, this is going to be a conspiracy between Commissioner Bergosh and Mel Pino because we agree on everything all the time, right? Every day. Not just my opinion of a lot of people that I speak with, but of course there are a lot of people that are of the differing opinion on this, that we've simply got to get this thing done. From where I sit in District 2, especially absent a strong commissionership to lend a voice to the waterfront downtown. Everything going on downtown. It's not the only reason. I mean, this thing is in chaos, and it is nothing on the census workers. My God, look at what they had to work through. It's amazing that they pulled it off at all. And look at our staff here at the county who had to do that simultaneously with a pandemic, everything that they were handling, and that's not to focus it on county staff. This is a federal process. It's a mess on a federal level, a state level, and a county level, and how could it be any otherwise? And by a mess, I just mean incomplete. I don't mean that the numbers were wrong or that there was any funny business, but it's just a very incomplete thing this time. And I've talked with you over the years, Commissioner Burgash. I've asked you questions because it's a very confusing process from long time back on how redistricting actually happens. And you are the only one that went through this, so I've referred questions to you in the past, just trying to understand how it works. Don't know that I'm all the way there yet. Please consider putting this off. This is so important. Why would you want to rush something that's going to impact our county at such a crucial time for planning and everything else? Why rush this thing? And where I'm primarily worried about it is transparency. Everyone's like, oh, the commission is trying to get up to their hijinks because they don't want to have this so that they can just do everything backdoor. Oh, let me guarantee you, the backdoor potential on this, if this thing gets shoved through at breakneck speed, the hijinks that are going to happen, the surprises, all of the backdoor maneuvering and the thumbs on the scale and everything else just is terrifying to me that those decisions will take place under that sort of speed where the chaos generators are so good at taking those tops and spinning them. Don't want to see that. Put it off. Let the planning be good. Let us do this in a more solid time than in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't disagree, and I thank the speaker for making those comments. Like I said, I've made my comments before on it, guys, and I'm quite delighted that we got the numbers. I honestly had no faith that we would, and not through anyone's fault, but we are in a pandemic, and now it's resurging. But for my vote, I'm not going to be rushed into it. I'll work with you guys, but I do know last time around it's a solid 6.5 to 7 month evolution, and primarily that's because we have to make sure that we don't just get the numbers right, but we have to get the demographics right, and we have to do compact districts, but it's difficult when we've got District 3 and we have to maintain balances. And so I just remember we had multiple joint meetings. I believe we had sessions. I had meetings in my district, and it wasn't just an easy process. Bang, bang, you do it. So I would just reiterate my thoughts that we need to be very deliberative about it. If we get it wrong, it can be challenged in court. People don't like this precinct's gone and this precinct got picked up, they can challenge it. And then if they see that we rushed it just because we got the data late, they could say that was part of the reason why we got it wrong. So for a lot of good reasons, I just want to make sure I make this point clear. I'm going to work whatever timeline the majority of this board puts out, I'm going to work toward it. But the minute I feel like we're cutting corners and not getting complete public input, because I want transparency, I want public input, I want meetings in my district, I'm going to have to give up. It looks like I'm going to have to give up a lot. My district grew the most. Those are tough decisions to make. I have to do it in conjunction with my counterpart on the school board. So I just want to make it perfectly clear that there's been noise put out there that we've got to do it the first odd year after the census. That's not true. The statute doesn't say it. It says we shall from time to time do it, but only in odd years after the decennial census. Given this year with COVID, the late generation of the numbers from the Census Bureau, and many other factors, if we don't get it done by December or we're not there, unless the legislature allows us in their session in early part of next year to do it in an even-numbered year, which would be a different story, I see nothing wrong whatsoever with going to 2023. Let the folks that are campaigning right now work through their districts. But if you guys want to work through it faster, it's 6.5, 7 months to do it right. You can put 10 pounds into a bag and force it in, but there's always the unintended consequences. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Stafford.
Well. So I'm here just to tell you that we got the numbers. The last time this thing was up for discussion, there was a question about when the census data was going to be released. Historically, it's been released in March. We were then told it was delayed, that the granular census block level data would be available in late September. And then a couple of months ago, about 6 weeks ago, we got word from the census that there was actually be an earlier release of raw data, that so long as you had the ability to work with said raw data, it's going to be the same. The stuff that's coming out at the end of September is the nice, pretty reports and all of that. So I was here to tell, I knew that was a discussion item, so the data was released last Thursday. We went through our program. Chris, my staff member behind me, worked with our program, with our vendor, and so we're confident that these numbers that you see just at a sort of a 50,000 foot level kind of give you a snapshot of where we are currently as the districts are drawn. As you have seen.
Excuse me, Mr. Stafford?
Yeah.
Is it possible that you, after you read them now, could we get copies of that, or is it just confidential at this point?
No,
She sent it yesterday.
Oh, she sent it yesterday? Okay.
I gave it I sent it to the county attorney yesterday, and I think she passed it along. So in essence, again, you all have seen this. District 1's up 5.87%. Again, this is, when I say up, this is above what the ideal district number is. And historically, the ideal district number is the number of population divided by the number of districts. It's an easy math equation, even for this University of Florida graduate. So that shows the ideal population as 64,381. So basically, we again do another math equation, say, is this district is currently drawn above or below that number? So what we have is District 1 is up 5.87%. District 2 is down 5.08%. District 3 is down 4.75%. District 4 is up 0.91%, and District 5 is up 3.05%. We're, as I indicated in my communication to the county attorney, we're in the process. There's loads and loads of additional data to include racial, the demographic data, et cetera. We're in the process of processing that right now, but we feel very confident within the very near term we'll have all of that information. As to what your plans are, that's completely up to you. We stand ready, willing, and able. That's a decision for you, the 5 of you to make, the 5 school board members to make. I am engaged with the city council. They have a process set forth in their city charter. We're working through that right now. It does extend into calendar 2022. Like I said, that's completely up to you. I don't have a dog in this fight. So we will stand ready, willing, and hopefully able to assist you all should you don't have to use us. That's the other thing. If you want to do this process on your own or contract with a third party, that's fine as well. We did this 10 years ago. The only thing I would say just generally is that I think the voters of Escambia County benefit when the lines are aligned as much as they can between the county districts and the school board districts. I just think it minimizes confusion. Anytime you minimize confusion for voters, that's a good thing. And then, of course, taking into consideration the city boundaries, because we have those single-member districts in the cities, and without getting way down in the weeds, but where those district lines are drawn can impact. We don't want to have these little islands within a particular community that have a handful of voters that have a particular district configuration. So all we'll say is moving forward, just let us know. We're ready to help if you want it, if you need it. Otherwise, you let us know when your work is done, and we'll then start drawing the precincts. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any?
Dave, how did the process work 10 years ago? And I mean, in your opinion, did it work well?
Sure. I mean, I think it worked well. We got it done, and I think there was transparency, from my perspective, and I think the fact that the school board and the county commission lines aligned, I think again, not to restate it, was a good thing, even though it's not required. And the fact that we're able to take into consideration the city lines, I think we reduced a lot of what we used to have split precincts which was you would walk into a precinct and part of that precinct was voting in the county, part of that precinct was voting in the city. Again, confusion. People don't, why is that on my ballot and not on their ballot? So that doesn't happen by accident. That's a deliberative thing. And so all those things, I think, worked well. So, from my perspective, I thought the process worked fine last time, but I know other counties do it differently.
Right. I know, Jeff, you were around. How long did it take, Dave, last time?
Again, we got I'd have to go back and look. I mean, certainly the process started earlier. How much earlier, I don't know. But, the fact that we just got the data today, end of last week that we would normally get in, March or April. But, and your county attorney, I know, has information about how other counties are doing it. I think there's a wide variety of how other counties are approaching this.
So when will you have the demographic data?
Well, we have it. We're just in the midst of the raw data is there. We're in the midst of getting it into our software program. So within the next week or two.
Okay, and then you'll pass that on to us. So
Absolutely.
So, Board, we had a request come through the county attorney's office, I think, to try to schedule a meeting with the school board as soon as we could.
I don't want to do it until we got all the data, though.
The request here is for the last week of September.
Oh, you think
we'll have it by then?
Absolutely.
We'll have it by the end of the day?
Well before then.
So it's a little bit earlier than what we had originally tentatively scheduled in our last meeting. But this was also to say, hey, we did get the data. We do think we can meet our deadlines, and so I want to go ahead and work on trying to get that meeting scheduled.
Do you think we should also include the ECUA?
They don't have a.
By special act, they get default with whatever we do. The school board has its own ability to draw districts. It's certainly to the community and to the supervisor of elections benefit for those to match.
Dave, I watched the meeting for the city, and I know that they're going out for outside counsel to help them legal. I mean, is that something that we'll need to do as well?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's. I think last time I believe that the board used in-house counsel. I think that maybe because of the difference between the city. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the county. I mean, excuse me, for the city. So I wouldn't advocate one way or another as far as council is concerned.
And so should we be meeting with the city council as well like we're going to meet with the school district?
No.
Would you recommend that?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Look, I mean, the city's districts, they overlap all through all, I mean, I think the important thing is that we try to get the precincts to match. But, I mean, if you think about it, Ann Hill has some in your district, some in your district, some in my district. I mean, it's all over the board in that regard. But I think if we can try to confine it to at least precincts.
I don't want any more meetings, Robert, you know that, so yeah.
Yeah, so no, and someone had asked me that, and my thought was it's independent.
Yeah, I'll see that.
Commissioner Underhill?
A late September meeting sounds great. That gives me time I think each of us time to sit down with our school board counterparts if we choose to. I know personally I'm going to have, just kind of looking at these, I'm actually surprised the numbers, I thought there would be more disparity. Our worst is 5.87, off from the standard.
Right,
so,
yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, it's not going to be much shift.
This isn't really hard. I mean, it's actually, I thought we were up against something that was going to be much harder than this in terms of the numbers. So, but I do want to have a town hall at the Mayfair Community Center. I want to have one out at Perdido Bay. Some of those areas that are on those edges, right? And talk and get the input from those citizens. And doing a meeting where we get together with the school board at the end of September would allow for time for that. So I think that allows time to make sure they've got a good product that's a good working document for us, or working documents from which to work. And it also gives us a chance to start to survey our constituencies. So Commissioner Bender, I would be very supportive of a late September meeting in conjunction with the school board.
Yeah, Doug, I mean, the numbers are not going to shift. D2 and D3, we're pretty close. 4 is not far off. I mean, there's going to have to be a little adjusting in D1.
Yeah, I mean, but you're going to have to, you and Doug are going to have to acquire.
Yeah, we have to acquire real estate.
Right.
So, and
The-
that's, but that's kind of, I mean, it actually makes really good sense, right? D4 has been is more static because it's the older part of the community that was already built up. We've all known that the largest amount of development has been taking place in D1, followed closely by D5. And we also know that in the core of the community of the west side, that we've got, population is not growing as fast. And we talk about that all the time in terms of the infrastructure in me and Lumen's districts, in the Warrington and the Mayfair areas. The infrastructure is not conducive to development at the same rate that it is elsewhere. So all of this makes perfectly good sense, and I think that, I think that when you work this out, this can actually be done much easier than it does not have to be hard. We just have to be very thorough about it, and I think we get that started by having that meeting. And like I said, and actually, Commissioner May, I would invite you that when I do the town hall up in the Mayfair area, I'd invite you to join me for that one.
Brownsville as well.
Brownsville as well. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of numbers moving there because clearly we're both on the deficit ones, right? That have to pick up. But I also know those are the people that don't actually get hurt as much, right? They end up feeling like the poor border town between districts sometimes. And so I think that having some communication, I don't doubt that the people of Perdido Bay and Perdido areas, I don't doubt that they will make their voices known. I want to facilitate making sure that the voices are known in Brownsville and Mayfair, and if there are others in that area that fall into that kind of historic west side, I'd be more than happy to attend any that you want to as well.
Maybe Mayfair and Montclair at the same time. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that would make sense. That'd make a lot of sense.
They're right there
So,
together.
all right.
How close do you have to get these numbers, Dave? Percentage wise?
I'm going to defer to your counsel on that.
Well, I mean, what's the
So, I will-
distribution?
Well,
So like he has 68 in D1 and there's 61 in D2, so I mean.
so sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
My understanding of the law of redistricting is that when you're over a 10% swing between two different districts, that is considered very significant. So your swing between D1 and D2, as well as D1 and D3, that's a big deal. So you really do need to get those numbers closer per district, or you're violating the one person, one vote obligation that you have. That alone would be enough for me to suggest that it certainly would be the most conservative thing to do, to try to go ahead and bring this in for a landing this year, because you do have an election next year. If the swing was a little less, then I would feel that would be a little less urgent.
So, and if I can follow up, I mean, that's actually very, very important information, Madam Attorney, and I appreciate that. But the question was, what's an ideal? And maybe that question is more for David Stafford, if you have any. I mean, how much of a deviation should we be short? We're not going to get 1 for 1, right? It's not going to be a 0% deviation.
Yeah, I don't want to punt, act like I'm punting or avoiding the question, but honestly, it's a legal question.
And it's not a bright line answer.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
It's not a bright line answer.
The litigation and case law surrounding redistricting is convoluted, changing. The Supreme Court has, been involved, and so I hesitate to. I've got my own opinions, but I'll keep those to myself.
All right, so a smarter play then would be, since we're doing homework, we're going to go do some town hall stuff. We're going to work with our school board members. Madam Attorney, would it be inappropriate that by the time we have that meeting in late September, that you would be able to give us some sort of guidance on what some best business practices look like?
Absolutely.
And then that might enable us to set a goal of deviation no greater than 3.5 or no greater than 4, between the highest and the lowest.
So
Absolutely.
there's not a real statistical number of deviation that's recommended, best practices?
Obviously, totally equal would be awesome. I would think a couple percent is very tolerable. Over 10%, you get into the double digits, then it's concerning, and the court decisions start to show that. So it's a very fact-specific analysis that the courts would do if there was a challenge. So there are guidelines. I know FAC has done a couple of webinars on this over the last year. I know.
If it ain't drawn right, there will be a challenge. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you, it's gonna be a
So
challenge.
let's just do it right.
Right. No, go ahead, Alvin, cut you off, though.
So, we get together with your counterparts at the school board in September and see if everyone has appetite to start down the path.
And Allison, the only reason I said outside council, I mean, because, I mean, the way in which these lines are drawn, I mean, we may need to get an attorney or somebody that wakes up every day thinking about this, and so that's not any disrespect to you, but you have to work with all five of us, and I can just tell you, if these lines, you know, are not drawn, you know, with a minority, majority opportunity, there will be a challenge.
I sat with the board 10 years ago when we did this, and I'm certainly willing to do that again, but I defer to your discretion.
Madam Attorney, did the school board give any indication on time of day? Do we have a preference that it's after what most of us would see as a work and have it be an evening meeting, or?
No, morning, for my vote.
Yeah, whenever. I think you'll find that the majority of the board over there on the school board right now are retired.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
they're a lot more available in the morning. I mean, I'm not speaking for them, but I mean, just knowing them.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wide open, whatever,
yeah, I
whatever is most convenient to the maximum number is where I'll be. Thanks.
The only thing I really see is there's a estuary board meeting midday on Wednesday, the 29th, but. other than
We got a
that-
board meeting on the 30th?
So, anyway.
I mean, yeah, get a day, yeah. All right. I mean, even if it's October 1, it doesn't matter, right?
Thank y'all. Just let me know.
I said, even if it's October 1, I
I
mean.
just said that last week of September, yeah.
Yeah, so if it's like the first week of October or the last week of September, it's not gonna make that much of a difference.
So,
Whichever way you wanna go, Mr. Chairman.
anything else?
I need a motion on the remainder of the county attorney's report.
Oh, yes, you do.
Is there anyone speaking on it?
No, there's not. There were 6 items.
Move all the items.
Second?
All right, please vote. And board, I appreciate the support on the local state of emergency. Jeff, you were there. It was coming right at us. But as soon as we realized it was passed and we no longer needed it, I went ahead and pulled it, so.
No, thank you for doing it.
All right, thank you. Lumen, can you hit save real quick so I can? Motion passes 5-0. We're adjourned.